right, a futuristic analyst has pointed out that only 5 countries have more shopping centres than South Africa. There are so many shopping centres in South Africa that this country accounts for around 88% of the continent's total shopping centre space. Isaac Nkama says that means the continent is ripe for expansion. Nkama is a Foresight Strategist and the founder of Foresight Africa Consulting. He joins us now. Great to have you with us in studio. Isaac, firstly, what is a Foresight Strategist?
Well, good evening, Francis. A Foresight Strategist is a new profession. The first graduates were only in 1979 in the US. And it basically looking at using certain scientific techniques and methodologies to arrive at certain assumptions. So it's a multidisciplinary skill that is applied in business, politics, science, and so a Foresight Strategist has to be someone who likes to read from the sciences to technology to medicine.
And you're trying to see where it's all going.
And the intention is to try to see where it's all going, how it will unfold, so that we begin planning today and not be caught by surprise tomorrow.
Caught on the back foot. Okay, so first let's set the scene here. You say only 5 countries have more shopping malls than South Africa. So I knew we had a lot, but that's interesting. Just tell us who has more, just give us a sense of the global landscape.
Well, South Africa is number 6 in the world in terms of shopping centers. And the only 5 countries that have more than South Africa are the United States, China, Canada, Japan, the UK, and even then just a little bit more, and South Africa is next in line. And so the only European country that has more shopping centers than South Africa is the United Kingdom. We have significantly more shopping centers than first world countries like France, Germany, Russia, Switzerland, you name them. It's only the United Kingdom that is ahead.
Although, I mean, what does it tell you? Because some of those, like the high street model, and you sit on the pavement and you go to the smaller shops and you go to the specialist shops rather than the big malls.
Well, when you look at retail space, you are basically counting the large malls and also the smaller malls.
So it's everything.
So you are combining your what is called your gross lettable area, your GLA, is basically a combination of the retail space available in that country, all the large malls and all the smaller shopping centers combined together, and that is the total. So all those would be included.
All right, and then in Africa, I mean, this is an incredible figure that we have 88% of Africa's total shopping center space. That's extraordinary.
That is, by any measure of standard, extraordinary. 88% of all shopping center space on the continent is within the borders of South Africa. There are a total of 2,600 shopping centers on the continent, and of that 2,600, 2,000 alone are within South Africa. And just to give you an idea of the sheer extent of the dominance, and it's not all good news because, I mean, we'll get into it a little later, but the province of the Western Cape, the shopping centers in the Western Cape, the total area, the gross lettable area in the Western Cape alone is equivalent to the GLA that is available in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa combined. Now, if we take Gauteng as a province, and we take the 49 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, the shopping center space in Gauteng is 3 times the amount of the entire sub-Saharan Africa combined.
It's amazing.
And let's extrapolate it even further. If we take the 3 largest shopping centers in the country, Fourways Mall, Menlyn, and Gateway, and combine them together, the space that they total is more than the total GLA of shopping center space in many countries. Just those 3 centers combined.
For several millions of people. This is incredible. So what you're suggesting is that we like shopping, but we're saturated now, and retailers should be looking at the rest of Africa, the rest of Africa's strategy. But we've seen big retailers go before into Nigeria and then return home. I think there's some trepidation. Some are doing well, though. Just tell us what the lay of the land is.
Well, if you look at the average per capita shopping center space per individual in South Africa, and you calculate it at, based on number of square meters per 1,000 people, we are even above that of a country like Belgium. We're about 137 square meters per capita. If you go up to West Africa, you get down to 3.5 meters. So that gives you a very rough scale. Now, what has happened is that a lot of countries, some companies have gone up and had problems on the retail front, many successes. I think one of the problems, if you look at the shopping center space, is that some of the shopping centers, number one, are way too big. And so we need to sort of tone down on the size of shopping centers. That also applies for South Africa and for the future in general. That's the first problem. The second problem is that we tend to spec way too high. And when we do that, when we spec too high, then those costs are obviously going to be included in the tenant costs. So the rentals then become high. And in many countries on the continent where South African malls were there, in some of them up to 70% of the tenants were South African companies, because they were priced so high that local companies could not afford, and that creates a sustainability problem. And so there needs to be a balance that is struck between not lowering standards, but coming up with specs that are somewhat reasonable so that the benefits can be passed on to the tenant, who can then pass them on to the consumer.
Okay, so the big South African model doesn't always work, and then those high rentals, of course, sort of reflect in what you pay at the till, so it affects your competitiveness as well. And let's end there, because this is also about the future hope for Africa, which has been dented along the way. COVID-19 arresting growth in a lot of countries, and now it's getting worse, fuel prices going up. A lot of the predictions for Africa as a whole becoming dimmer. So I'd like to know how you feel.
Well, in South Africa, roughly 70% of all sales are from the formal sector, and only 30% are from the informal sector. On the rest of the continent, it's the other way around. In most countries, the formal retail sector only constitutes 5 to 30%, and the other 70 to 95% is the informal sector. And so that shows you that there's a tremendous amount of room. But this also speaks to how investors need to change their strategy. So if you're an investor and you're looking to invest for your better returns, to invest into 40,000 square meters of retail space, rather than have one particular shopping center that is 40,000 square meters, what you'd preferably do is rather have four smaller of 10,000 square meters. Of course, it's a lot more work in terms of your environmental impact assessment and all kinds of...
Ms. Nkama, we have to cut there, but thank you so much. This has been fascinating. And think about that next time you're at a shopping mall. Only 5 more countries with more shopping centers than South Africa. That was Isaac Nkama, Foresight Strategist and founder of Foresight Africa Consulting.